Colleagues, please take your seats. We will begin shortly.
Dobrze, to ja powiem im sobie mogę wyjść. Tak, ja myślę, że pan... Nie, bo do 7:35.
Do 10:35 jest opening, potem pan może spokojnie.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. It is the 9th meeting of the 63rd session of the Commission for Social Development is called to order. So I invite the Commission to continue its consideration of the agenda item 3A, entitled Priority Theme, Strengthening Solidarity, Social Inclusion and Social Cohesion, to accelerate the delivery of the commitments of the Copenhagen Declaration on Social Development and Programme of Action of the World Summit for Social Development, as well as the implementation of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. I think by the end of the Commission, I will really know it by heart. In order to hold a multi-stakeholder forum on the priority theme entitled Promoting Solidarity and Social Cohesion through Cooperatives, the Social and Solidarity Economy as a Path for Achieving SDGs. And I'm pleased to welcome the distinguished panelists for our multi-stakeholder forum this afternoon. His Excellency Carlos Jorge Paris Ferraro, Vice Minister of Social Policies at the Ministry of Social Development of Paraguay.
Thank you, President.
His Excellency, my friend, Permanent Representative of Mongolia to the United Nations. Hello, Bayar. And Mr. Maxime Baudel, Minister Delegate for the Social and Solidarity Economy at the Ministry of the Economy, Finance and the Industrial and Digital Sovereignty of France. Also pleased to welcome the moderator, Mr. Konstantinos Papadakis, Principal Social Affairs Officer at the United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs. Mr. Konstantinos Papadakis, you have the floor. Please open the panel. I just want to say that I'm really impressed by the fact that in France we got this special delegate for social solidarity economy. That's a very good thing, actually. Okay.
Thank you, Excellency Ambassador Shersky, for giving me the honor moderating this panel. Distinguished panelists and delegates, ladies and gentlemen, our multi-stakeholder forum today is looking at ways for promoting solidarity and social cohesion through cooperatives and the social and solidarity economy as a path for achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. The United Nations General Assembly has highlighted the importance of cooperatives and social and solidarity economy, notably with two resolutions addressing the subject matter in 2022 and 2023. These resolutions followed, at least the resolution on the social and solidarity economy followed the ILO's International Labour Conference resolution of 2022, which, among other things, provided for the first time a definition of social and solidarity economy. So social and solidarity economy encompasses enterprises, organizations, and other entities engaged in economic, social, and environmental activities to serve the collective interest or the general interest. These entities operate based on principles of voluntary cooperation, mutual aid, democratic and participatory governance, autonomy, and prioritize people and social purpose over capital in the process and the use of profits and assets. Now, a common denominator of all these initiatives, definitions, etc., is the recognition of the importance of the social and solidarity economy in general and cooperatives in particular in supporting countries to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals and the 2030 Agenda. This year also marks the International Year of Cooperatives, 2025 being celebrated under the theme Cooperatives Build a Better World And this is only the second year we are celebrating an international year on this topic, the first being 2012, the first international year, which led actually to significant growth and recognition of cooperatives, including through the adoption of landmark legislations in some countries such as India, the Republic of Korea, creating a more conducive environment for their sound development. Now, the General Assembly has called on the United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs in collaboration with the Committee for the Promotion and Advancement of Cooperatives to support member states in commemorating this year. Now, ladies and gentlemen, before we hear from our distinguished panelists, I would like to take a moment to highlight the significance of this multi-stakeholder forum within the broader work of the Commission for Social Development this year. Your discussions today come at a pivotal role as member states and key stakeholders prepare for the second World Summit on Social Development. The World Social Summit 2025 represents indeed a critical global milestone in efforts to foster inclusive social development and tackle pressing challenges that hinder well-being for all. Building on the legacy of the 1995 World Summit for Social Development in Copenhagen, the upcoming summit is set to reaffirm a collective commitment to poverty eradication, the pursuit of full and productive employment and decent work, and social inclusion. Importantly, the international community is called upon to address these goals in the face of new and evolving global challenges, including the impacts of technological evolutions, climate change, and demography-related developments. Now, debates during the works of the present Commission for Social Development have clearly highlighted this additional complexity compared to Copenhagen. At the same time, most of them have emphasized that strategies to address this complexity must place people at the center, promoting inclusive development, equity, and sustainability as core principles of development. And in this context, cooperatives and social and solidarity economy are not just complementary tools, they are essential components of these people-centered strategies. By fostering community engagement, shared ownership, and equitable growth, they embody the very values we aim to promote: social inclusion, economic resilience, and sustainable development. Now, we therefore look forward to hearing from our panelists today on their experiences and actions taking place in their countries for promoting solidarity and social cohesion through cooperatives and the social and solidarity economy, including regarding aspects relevant to legal frameworks, data and statistics, education, capacity building, governance, and policy-making issues, but also what are their perceptions as to, and proposals as to how to best promote these actions on the occasion of the Second World Summit for Social Development and its aftermath, follow-up. Now, during the question and answers following the presentations by the speakers, in addition to giving the floor to member states and delegates wishing to intervene, we will also be hearing from some stakeholders representing cooperatives and social and solidarity economy, keeping in mind our time limitations. Speakers will have 10 minutes for their respective interventions. The Q&A session will last approximately 30 minutes, although today we can allow for some more flexibility as there is no session afterwards. And we have only 3 instead of 4 panelists initially planned. Now, without further ado, I give the floor to our first panelist, His Excellency Mr. Carlos Jorge Paris Ferrero, the Vice Minister of Social Policies at Paraguay's Ministry of Social Development. Your Excellency, you have the floor for 10 minutes. Thank you.
Muy buenas tardes. Good afternoon, everybody. Mr. Chair, moderator, thank you very much for the invitation to be here. I would ask the technicians to please put the PowerPoint on the screen so we can start. I would like to just go through this, and before I start, I would like to say that although the social economy was not a public policy in Paraguay until last year, the idea of it has been present in our historic roots. Indigenous economies did not ignore exchanges, although the essence of its basis was reciprocity. During the colonial period, they were able to create a solidarity economy that was self-sufficient and had excellent production with different guidelines for distribution and consumption. And at the same time, it provided independence and autonomy vis-a-vis the Spanish colonizers. And it was one of the main traits of these societies around the 16th and 17th century that was the model for social and economic organization. Currently, peasant organizations and family agriculture include this culture that is based in solidarity and reciprocity. And when it comes to the social economy, which is pretty well developed in Paraguay, we can speak about the cooperative movement, which arrived in Paraguay through immigration during the 1930s and the early 20th century. Currently, you can find examples of the cooperative movement in all departments of Paraguay, in all economic sectors, and it's concentrated in agriculture and livestock, as well as credit. It's based on mutual aid, self-sufficiency, and solidarity as principles that guide how this unfolds. It's about 12% of GDP, 3% in the primary sector, 6% in the secondary or industrial sector, and 3% in the tertiary sector. So this is financial and commercial services. And there are different cooperative sectors, but the main one, the most frequently used one, has to do with savings and credit, so credit unions. That is why 12% of the financial sector is actually made up of cooperatives. And in this sense, Paraguay occupies the third spot in Latin America when it comes to agriculture and livestock agribusiness. Cooperatives produce 72% of our dairy products, 24% of meat that we export, and we have to remember that Paraguay is one of the main meat exporters in the world. The cooperative sector provides fundamental services when to the lower and middle income tranches of our society. So we see that this is extremely porous in our society, and there are about 1,000 service centers, taking into account that Paraguay has 263 districts. So as you can see, its penetration in society is very important. There are around 500,000 SMEs that are members of cooperatives, and let's remember that the population of Paraguay is roughly above 6 million people. So the cooperative sector is a gigantic sector in our country, and it is growing. The National Plan to Reduce Poverty in Public Policies within the axis of economic inclusion prioritizes the cooperative movement and prioritizes partnerships among the dimensions that must be addressed by the institutions of the Paraguayan state. This plan was adopted via presidential decree 2 months after the current administration took office in 2023. The Ministry for Social Development has a strategy for the social and solidarity economy, and it is to include within public policies as an alternative to production, commercialization, and service provision by empowering organizations and community associations made up of peasants, indigenous, and urban communities in their territories, generating thus economic opportunities on a local and regional level towards an inclusive kind of development. There are several programs for social protection and economic inclusion that have been implemented by the Ministry of Social Development. They promote partnerships as an important strategy in order to overcome poverty. We have the program Tecopora. It's an incentive for conditional cash transfers, and this is promoted in productive committees and community fairs, and it benefits around 200,000 families. We have a program called Tecoja to provide training and strengthen the committees in different territories. About 35,000 families benefit from that. Our program Temondera provides seed capital for small businesses, and it benefits approximately 7,500 families. And we have a program that we are very proud of. We've done that with the FIO. It's conditional cash transfers to preserve forests or to plant trees in plots of land that belong to the participants of the program Tecopora, and 268 families benefited with $40,000 in income for their communities in order to conserve forests or plant trees in their land. Agribusiness cooperative movement is also an important source of income for the beneficiaries of these programs, and that way our citizens can buy fresh and healthy products that are produced by these families. In 2024, as part of the government's commitment to the social and solidarity economy within the Ministry of Social Development, we created a department for the social and solidarity economy. Having this concrete structure in the ministry allowed us to set up a joint working table with the Chamber Commission for the Social Economy in order to grow the social and solidarity economy movement, with the understanding that this will facilitate launching different actions that will spread ideas about cooperatives among the population, along with current regulations of this sector. And we have ties to academia, which are absolutely central. That is why we work with the National University of Asunción in order to incorporate the social and solidarity economy in curricula. This allows us to create important synergies in order to strengthen the capacities of committees in our different territories and promote research on the issue. What would we like to emphasize during the upcoming Social Development Summit in Doha? Training and strengthening the committees that are where the participants of our social protection schemes are based, because they're an entry point to the development of the social and solidarity economy, creating a multiplying effect in the value chain at a local level to provide resources, to promote partnership in entrepreneurial sectors, and to consolidate organizations, associations, and community networks to produce, commercialize, and provide services. And lastly, implement actions that create opportunities and strengthen associative culture, as well as networks and alliances to produce in order to benefit populations that are in a situation of poverty and vulnerability. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Excellency. I think that was an ideal introduction to today's subject matter. You noticed the historical roots of the social and solidarity economy. You explained the important economic impact cooperatives have in your country. You explained the strategy and also the role of cooperatives in undertaking the important parts of social protection projects. Thank you. I would like to give now the floor to His Excellency, Mr. Ankabayar Naimdor, who is the permanent representative of Mongolia to the United Nations. Excellency, you have the floor for the next 10 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for giving me the floor. Excellencies and distinguished delegates and panelists, I'm glad to participate in this important multi-stakeholder forum and share Mongolia's perspective. At the SDG Summit in 2023, the world leaders committed to taking bold, ambitious, accelerated, just and transformative actions to accelerate the implementation of the SDGs. These actions would be anchored in international solidarity and effective cooperation at all levels. Among them, it is important to mobilize potentials of people-centered enterprises such as cooperatives, which bring people together in a more democratic and equal way, and which contribute greatly to the socioeconomic development. Very important value of social and solidarity economy entities, which I want to underline, is that they promote the fullest possible participation of local communities and all people, including women, young people, older persons, persons with disabilities, and indigenous people in economic and social development. Their involvement strengthens economic and social development and contributes to the eradication of the poverty and hunger. As a strong supporter of the cooperative movement since 1969, Mongolia has been relentlessly supporting resolutions and documents of the General Assembly on strengthening and developing cooperatives. And since 1981, we have been the main co-sponsor of the GA biannual resolution on the role of cooperatives in social development. We also initiated 2 General Assembly resolutions, International Year of Cooperatives in 2012 and in 2025, respectively. Moreover, since 2023, we have been co-sponsoring the new resolutions promoting the social and solidarity economy for sustainable development. These resolutions provide definitions and scope of activities for international cooperative and social and solidarity economy movement and encourage member states to mobilize their contribution to the sustainable development goals, and how they could feature in relevant upcoming multilateral processes such as the 4th International Conference on Financing for Development and 2nd World Summit for Social Development and 2nd International Year of Cooperatives in 2025. As panelists are discussing the issue of promoting solidarity and social cohesion through cooperatives, the social and solidarity economy from broad perspective, I want to focus more on our national context and share the experience of the most recent activities of the government of Mongolia. Firstly, social and solidarity economy. There is no doubt that the small and medium-sized enterprises can play a significant role in advancing our national development goals, such as Vision 2050, Mongolia's long-term development policy, and the Decent Work Country Program for the years of 2023 to 27. Although certain types of social and solidarity economy entities exist in Mongolia, studies indicate that the recognition of the SSC as a broader concept within policy and legal framework remains in its early stage. The SMEs under the agency under the Ministry of Food, Agriculture and Light Industry is the main agency responsible for the SMEs and cooperatives. Established the National Advisory Committee on the SSE issue with technical assistance of ILO and partner countries such as the Republic of Korea. Given the limited awareness of the SSE, the National Advisory Committee emphasizes the importance of involving government officials in its activities to enhance the understanding and strengthening the SSE sector. To this end, the committee is actively collaborating with the government agencies and ministries to facilitate the discussion on the subject and its role in achieving SDGs. The dialogues have been conducted multiple times in recent years, bringing together key stakeholders, including government representatives, employers, workers' organizations, SSE support organizations, intermediaries, and SSE representative institutions and international organizations. Mongolian Employers Federation has also emphasized the need for definition of the SSE in the Mongolian context, ensuring that its core principles and values are preserved. According to an International Labour Organization study, the SSE in Mongolia encompasses cooperatives, associations, partnerships, social enterprises, foundations, mutual societies, help groups, other entities that operate in accordance with the SSC values and principles. Among these, cooperatives are the primary actors within the SSC and are particularly relevant to the government's priorities in the care economy, green economy, and circular economy. Moreover, cooperatives play a vital role in enhancing herders' livelihoods and strengthening their resilience to the impacts of climate change. In this connection, I want to talk about most recent policy of the government in support of national cooperatives. In April 2024, the government launched the program New Cooperative as part of its midterm development program, New Recovery Policy. The new cooperative movement is mostly focusing on agriculture, developing risk-resistant nomadic, semi-nomadic, and intensive livestock husbandry, and conducting of livestock production through cooperatives. With the successful implementation of this program, income, social security, and well-being of herders will be stabilized and improved, and overall ability of the livestock sector to adapt to climate change and manage risk will be further enhanced. As of 2024, there are 247,900 herder families in Mongolia. How are we supporting the movement? As part of our efforts to intensify the movement, the National Committee on Intersectoral Cohesion of the New Cooperative Movement was established under the leadership of the Deputy Prime Minister. Investment loans. Since the launch of the New Cooperative Movement in April 2024, investment loan of equaling $200 million has been granted to over 20,400 herders from 4,853 cooperatives. The government also transferred $9.3 million to commercial banks to subsidize interests. Investment loans are mostly allocated to western and mountainous regions, and main activities under the investment projects are purchase and sale of breeding animals, construction and expansion of buildings and facilities, purchase of special purpose vehicles, equipments, and production of dairy and meat products, and planting and production of fodders. To date, we are working further develop the model cooperatives in each village and province whose activities and products meet international standards. The plan also aims to include pastoralists and cooperatives into national double-tier insurance and introduce standards of food safety, animal health, and farming. Capacity building and training. Cooperatives and herders are participating in the National Regional Development Forum held in October 2024 in capital of Mongolia, Ulaanbaatar, Development Forum of Central Regions in Darkhanol Province in 24 November. Some 1,500 corporate members from 21 provinces. We have 10 provinces. We have 21 provinces in the country. Have been involved in the capacity building training, organized in collaboration with the teachers and the researchers of the National University of Agriculture. Promotion and public relations. Within the framework of promotional activities, information has been disseminated to in duplicated number, over 1 million pastoralists and citizens on projects, achievements, and good practice and future goals of the new cooperative movement through video content, broadcast, and newspapers. Some issues, although, need to be addressed in the future. We need to develop cooperatives based on clusters in relation to the regional development policy. There remains a need to enhance capacity building among SSC entities, particularly for young people interested in launching cooperatives and in SSC initiatives. Survey also highlighted the need for supporting research initiatives, establishing nationwide statistical foundations to strengthen the SSC sector and addressing the limited financial capacity of many SSC entities. We also recognized, maybe this is very important, the need for importance of the public and private partnership and international cooperation. Here I want to mention that the delegation of Mongolia participated in the Global Cooperative Conference held in New Delhi, India on 25th to 30th of November 2024 and shared experience with international partners. We are actively cooperating with domestic and foreign partners to develop cooperatives not only in agriculture, in industry, but also in other sectors. Distinguished delegates, the principles and values of cooperatives are inherently aligned with the SDG. It should be noted that the first International Year of Cooperatives celebrated in 2012 had huge successes in promoting cooperatives and raising awareness of their contribution to the implementation of the development goals at national, regional, and international levels. Thus, the second International Year in 2025 under the theme Cooperatives Build Better World is offering us an opportunity to further solidify the role of cooperatives and SSE in this to the global post-pandemic recovery and the acceleration of the Agenda 2030 implementation. And I stop here and would be glad to engage further discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for describing Mongolia's efforts to promote cooperative movement and social and solidarity economy. You made the link with the importance of social and solidarity economy when it comes to protecting and promoting the interests of the youth, people with disabilities, the local communities, indigenous peoples, important areas. You explained to us your activism since at the international level, since the late 60s, as main sponsor of international initiatives and United Nations resolutions in this area, which triggered in turn important developments in many other countries, and we thank you for this. You talked also about the importance of participatory governance, while also mentioning a number of areas that still needs to be strengthened and on which you are working, including questions of capacity building, targeting especially youth interested in the social and solidarity economy. Thank you again, sir. So the next speaker, panelist, and final one in our list is Mr. Maxime Baduel, who is a ministerial delegate for the social and solidarity economy at France's Ministry of Economy and Finance. Monsieur Baduel, vous avez la parole pour 10 minutes.
You have the floor for 10 minutes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Sir, Mr. Chair, thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to very much thank the United Nations for inviting me here. I'm delighted to be with you here to talk about the social and solidarity economy through cooperatives, in particular talking about the French experience for a fairer and sustainable society. Holding this conference on the topic of promoting solidarity and social cohesion through cooperatives, the social and solidarity economy as a path for achieving the SDGs, you're rightly focusing on our ability to act collectively to find social, environmental and economic responses to the major transitions that we're experiencing.
Nous assistons à une véritable
Furthermore, we are seeing a real trend to recognize SSEs at the global level because, as you have said, the UN has published 2 resolutions on the subject, the one dated the 18th of April 2023, promoting the SSE for sustainable development. I believe that this is a significant step in recognizing SSEs at the international level because it establishes an official definition of this type of entrepreneurship and recognizes its contribution to the SDGs. Then there's the resolution of the 20th of November 2024. It reaffirms its role and also urges states and local authorities to integrate SSE in their development strategies. The EU has also defined SSE as an ecosystem which enables a transition for industry and of the economy as well. It published a recommendation for the 27 member states so that each state can adopt a national strategy on SSEs by the end of 2025. At the global level, we can note that the social and solidarity economy, or inclusive economies, have the same characteristics. These are economies imbued with the values of equality, justice, and cooperation. They are profoundly political. They create democracies in action and citizenship, economic citizenship. They participate in implementing and improving public policies, in particular through social innovation. And they're present in all sectors of activity, from social action to industry, whilst finding collectively solutions and solidarity-based initiatives on a daily basis in local areas. We're really talking about a grassroots economy here at the local level, which creates cooperation and participation. They create resilience because SSEs help to give a structure to economic networks that are a source of wealth for local authorities and for people. With the French Development Agency, we see this in France. This provides technical and financial assistance to rebuild and give structure to activities for local populations. In France, the social and solidarity economy represents 10% of our GDP, 14% of private employment, and it involves about 22 million volunteers in the voluntary sector and foundations. The strength of this French ecosystem also lies in its legislative framework. This helps to define the structure of SSEs. There are 5 groupings: cooperative, mutual aid societies, voluntary organizations, foundations, and businesses, SSE businesses. These are all organizations that defend the collective interest, that have social utility, they demonstrate their positive contribution to society, and they share power and values through having a democratic governance in place. This law also has helped to design tools to identify, to finance, and to build skills within these structures. And this has led to a link being established between the state, local authorities, the economic world, and civil society, with discussion and dialogue in place. But I think that SSEs should not be boiled down just to social assistance and reparations alone, because SSE is innovative, it produces, it creates, and in particular in production cooperatives, we're also not talking about filling in for any shortcomings in the market like the state and its public services too. There's a need to identify the strength of SSE to improve our public policies and the practices of traditional businesses so that we can invent solutions on a daily basis and respond to major transitions, in particular environmental transitions that we're facing. In response to this, I think the role of the state is first and foremost to encourage and support stakeholders at the grassroots level, to support their ability to innovate, to organise and to develop. At the same time, stakeholders in SSE are a resource for public action, to question how public action builds and rolls out policies and public services, and to measure the impact thereof. SSE stakeholders must at all levels be active participants. I would like to commend the choice of the UN that it made to make 2025 the International Year of Cooperatives. Cooperatives are a force that can be harnessed both in businesses and in grassroots projects. From the standpoint of businesses, cooperative and participative businesses, which we call SCOP in France, are increasingly attractive in France. Employees have 51% of social capital and 65% at least of voting rights, whilst not all employees are members right from the outset. All are able to become members. Each employee that's a member has a vote, irrespective of the person's status, their seniority, or the amount they've invested. So these, in fact, are businesses that better resist or last more than conventional businesses. We've measured that their longevity is 5 years at least, and being around for 5 years is something that 80% of these cooperatives enjoy, as opposed to 60% of conventional or traditional businesses. So we are looking at this in France. We also wish to work on replacing people who've retired and focusing on own source funding and instruments to have loan guarantees or guaranteed loans. I'd like to underscore a model that's of particular interest, the ESOP, the Employee Stock Ownership Plan, which helps to facilitate this as well as shared governance. Cooperatives can also be harnessed at the local level, and this is particularly the case for what we call cooperative societies with a collective interest. They represent a real opportunity for local authorities. They involve local authorities, businesses, users, and employees. They help to improve its action by better identifying needs, better building and seeking solutions together, and they better measure the impact. In conclusion, I'd like to say that developing our SSE is a strong lever to meet the SDGs, and it should be encouraged by this committee. This development needs to involve a legislative regulatory framework to give a structure to this ecosystem and to ensure that there are financial and capacity building instruments in place. It also involves promoting these structures with financial institutions and the economic world, rather. And finally, it involves building public policies and ensuring that they are in line with SSEs. I'd be absolutely delighted to respond to any questions you may have. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Baduel, and for presenting France's also impressive approach to this sector of the economy. The social and solidarity economy. You emphasized the importance. You emphasized the importance of the momentum that exists currently. I think there is a. Is it working now? Yes. Of the momentum that currently exists at the international level, which of course has trickled down to the national level, and France is one example of how this phenomenon, how this sector can be can evolve, provided that the state and all stakeholders can support the idea of the SSE, which you described as democracy in action, but democracy not in a very theoretical way, because it represents already 10% of France's GDP, several million workers and others who are involved in these activities. And of course, you mentioned and you concluded by emphasizing the question again of participatory governance when it comes to managing and further developing this area. Well, I think we are now ready to give the floor to both to NGOs, but also to member states who wish to take the floor for any questions you may have. Let's privilege more questions than statements, although both are useful. And thank you very much for keeping your interventions to about 3 to 4 minutes. I give the floor first to the International Cooperative Alliance.
Microphone is not active. Oh, no, it's active. Thank you, Chair. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, it's an honor to address this forum as we celebrate the UN International Year of Cooperatives, which is a global recognition by the UN General Assembly of the vital role that cooperatives play in sustainable development, social inclusion, and economic resilience. Cooperatives are more than just businesses. They are agents of social justice, empowering communities, reducing inequalities, and driving grassroots changes. They prove that economic success and collective well-being can go hand in hand. Unlike the conventional business models that prioritize profit above all else, cooperatives put people first ensuring fair wages, decent work, and shared prosperity. They provide sustainable alternative, fostering inclusion, and promoting socio-economic and environmental sustainability, as has been highlighted by the speakers. As we prepare for the second UN World Social Summit in November, the International Cooperative Alliance, which unites and represents more than 3 million cooperatives and 1.2 billion cooperators globally, is mobilizing cooperative leaders to present a global cooperative charter and a commitment plan outlining how cooperatives can partner with governments, the UN agencies, and other key stakeholders to drive solutions, implement social policies, reduce inequalities, and strengthen economic democracy at local, national, and international levels, accelerating the progress towards the SDGs. We therefore look forward to strengthening our partnership with the UN system, governments, and other key stakeholders to scale up impact, particularly this year through national committees for implementing International Year of Cooperatives. More information on how various stakeholders can support IYC, International Year of Cooperative initiatives can be found on our website. I now hand over to my colleague, Anna Aguirre, to share our call to action. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I am Ana Aguirre, the youth representative at the International Cooperative Alliance. And as you have all mentioned, cooperatives touch upon so many of the points that international agendas mark as priorities. And the good news is that we are 10% of global employment and always ready to grow. We always highlight the features that show the cooperatives as resilient, democratic, participatory, community, and rooted. But let me highlight two more that I really like. On the one hand, labor and wealth generators, and not only generators, distributors. I am from Gipuzkoa, a little territory in the north of Spain, where is a lot of cooperatives and it's highly cooperativized. And the Gini index of this region is 23.0, which makes it one of the lower in the world. Partially thankful to the cooperative movement that is very enrooted in the region. And another one that I really like is transgenerational. Cooperatives are one of the only business models that bridge the gap among generations in their everyday work, naturally, with no transference, but integration of generations structurally. You yourselves in this institution have shared that cooperatives are a great tool for achieving the 2030 agenda. And in 2025, we celebrate the International Year of Co-ops. So we have conducted research that show 5 common features when talking about cooperative-friendly ecosystems. 1, legislation, policies, and institutions that support cooperatives. 2, education and capacity building. 3, cooperative culture. 4, access to funding and finance. 5, networks and partnerships. So we ask you to honor that embrace and urge member states to draft and implement strategies that allow to foster the creation of more cooperative-friendly ecosystems. We at the ACA will hold our part of the bargain and make sure that no one that takes upon this journey does it alone. As youth representatives, I could put a list of examples that show that when you invest in youth and in youth in cooperatives, it not only pays off, but it comes up multiplied. Example as the Global Youth Forum, the Replication Project, and the Youth Leadership Exchange Program highlight not only creation of labor, but also education. So let me just chat it with 2 sentences that I really like. 1, as a call for action, as Mondragon founder, the biggest cooperative corporation worldwide for worker co-ops, used to say, those who opt to make history and change the course of events themselves have an advantage over those who decide to wait passively for the results of that change. And a second one that is much more philosophical, but I think that it really speaks to what we do today here, is in Basque, that it says, izan zirelako gara eta garelako izango dira, which means we are because we were, because they were, and they will be because we are today. So I leave it in your hands to actually put this forward. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Thank you, sir. I now give the floor to Her Excellency Francisca Gallegos, Deputy Secretary of the Social Services of Chile. Chile, you have the floor.
Muy buenas tardes.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, distinguished delegations, honorable panel members. It is an honor to participate in this dialogue on the social and solidarity economy and its role in promoting the sustainable development. In Chile, like in the rest of Latin America, we've tried to build economic models that combine growth with social inclusion, recognizing the importance of moving towards schemes that promote greater cooperation and foment sustainability and strengthen the resilience of our communities. One of the main challenges to consolidate the social and solidarity economy in our country is updating legal frameworks. That is why we highly value the panel's interventions. Having robust legislation provides legal certainty to organizations as well as facilitate their access to financing, and it foments their growth. Currently in Chile, we have multiple experiences that have to do with the cooperative movement that have proven to have a positive impact in society and communities, but we need norms that allow its development long term. And in that sense, we have concrete initiatives to strengthen the social economy in our country through a fund for solidarity and social investments. That way, we are fomenting collaboration and community work. We have a program called Juntos Más Barato. Together, it's cheaper. That's what that means in English. And that way, communities can mutualize their family expenditures. They collectively buy their groceries. So this foments the solidarity movement. We've also worked with recyclers that work in communities and improved their training. Thanks to this program, 32 cooperatives in 11 regions in our country, from a total of 16 regions, have strengthened their organizational capacities and have become part of a network of producers. That way they participate in the management of residue with a sustainable focus. We're also investigating the number of cooperatives of people involved in care work in order to foment solidarity and contribute to the care economy. However, for social economy to become a sustainable development strategy, we need better statistics on its impact. The lack of detailed information has made it difficult to plan effective public policies. Having precise data will allow us to measure the results of these initiatives, identify opportunities, and design evidence-based strategies. Along with that, education and training in social economy must be incorporated into curricula. Incorporating this in teaching not only foments a culture of social responsibility, but it also provides concrete tools to rise up to the challenges of the labor market, especially in a world that is undergoing the digital transformation and changing labor market dynamics. In this context, the social economy can be a real tool, a real alternative for self-employment and for groups that have been historically excluded from the formal labor market. The proclamation of 2025 as the International Year of Cooperatives is a unique opportunity to strengthen our global commitment with this movement. And from Chile, we reaffirm our commitment to the social and solidarity economy as a key pillar to transform our social and economic systems. I thank you for the opportunity to share our experience, and I trust that this dialogue will help us move forward to strengthen our joint work. Thank you very much.
Thank you, madam. I now give the floor to Inclusivity Project, which will be followed by Burundi.
Hello? Can you hear me? Thank you very much. My name is Bakri Tanja, co-founder of the Abolition Institute, and I am speaking today on behalf of the Inclusivity Project. My intervention will focus on how the Commission for Social Development, through one concrete suggestion, can support the monitoring and creation of specific legal frameworks to foster the growth of social and solidarity economy. Let me begin by addressing a gap that the Sustainable Development Goal leaves unaddressed, a gap that also remains unaddressed in the Pact of the Future adopted last year. However, there is no need for concern. Just the African continent stepped up when the Pact for the Future was adopted. It is once again ready to take the lead in closing this gap. In November 2024, the African Commission on Human and People's Rights adopted a resolution 619 titled Resolution on the Protection and Promotion of the Rights of Communities Discriminated by Work and Descent. This resolution addresses caste-based discrimination and similar form of social oppression in Africa, a long-standing issue that is finally receiving the urgent recognition it deserves. In my home country, Mauritania, this discrimination primarily affects the Haratin community, many of whom have endured centuries of slavery. While some have gained freedom, many remain in bondage. Yet, whether enslaved or free, their living conditions remain nearly identical. This resolution is groundbreaking. However, this resolution is not just about Mauritania. It is about the entire continent and beyond. It calls for monitoring, recognizing caste-based discrimination, which exists on all continents, for working collectively together to combat it. Recognizing caste and similar forms of discrimination based on work and descent will significantly contribute to building a more inclusive social and solidarity economy. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, sir. Burundi, followed by Children and Youth International.
Mr. President, on behalf of the Burundian youth, it's a great honor to stand before you, and I thank you for bringing us together during this 63rd section of the Commission for Social Development, and also for organizing this critical and interactive debate on the fundamental role of cooperatives in promoting solidarity and social cohesion through cooperatives. The social and solidarity economy as a path of sustainable development. My country, Burundi, is an inspiring example of this dynamic. Aware of potential of its youth, it has made the organization of young people in cooperative a strategic priority within the framework of the Burundi Emerging Country 2040 Developed Country 2060 vision. By harnessing their energy and creativity, these cooperatives not only contribute to strengthening national production, but also ensure the economic empowerment of young people. Thanks to these initiatives, numerous employment opportunities have been created, reducing unemployment and reinforcing the country's economic fabric. Cooperatives provide a unique opportunity to address some of the most pressing challenges young people face today: unemployment, social exclusions, and economic inequality. These models are not just businesses. They are about centered development, where economic success goes hand in hand with social progress for building a better future. Furthermore, Burundi has taken a decisive step by establishing an investment bank for youth, which was one of the greatest achievements. This innovative financial tool allows young entrepreneurs and cooperatives to access the resources needed to develop their projects and actively participate in the country's economy transformation. It is a model to follow, a tangible proof that solidarity and economic inclusions are powerful drivers for achieving the sustainable development goals. The cooperative model should be scaled up regionally, particularly in conflict-affected areas, to empower young as agents of development rather than victims of war, reduce economic vulnerability, and prevent them from being lured into violence or instability. As we discuss social development, we cannot ignore the tragic reality unfolding on the Eastern Republic of Congo. The ongoing conflict has devastated communities, displaced millions, and subjected innocent youth into unspeakable violence. Youth who should be building businesses, driving innovations are caught in circles of displacement and despair. Some have even become child soldiers. In my conclusions, it is crucial to promote solidarity-based economy that places young people at the heart of development. Thank you, Your Excellency.
Thank you, sir. I now give the floor to Children and Youth International, and the next speaker will be the European Union.
Hello. Okay. Good afternoon, Excellencies and honorable speakers. My name is Tiara Sitnor, and I represent Children and Youth International. I speak today on behalf of the Major Group for Children and Youth. The legacy of the World Social Summit and the Copenhagen Declaration is a promise to center social justice in development. This means sharing power with those whose rights are often denied, whose futures are decided for them. While progress has been made since 1995, we have not fully addressed the systemic inequality and discrimination that continues to limit opportunity. True change requires inclusive representation and real action. The Social and Solidarity Economy, SSE, offers a transformative solution. Cooperatives built on shared ownership and democratic participation ensures that all voices are heard and that profits are reinvested to serve the common good. This model empowers youth to not just participate, but to lead. By integrating youth into cooperatives and SSE initiatives, we can create sustainable economic opportunities and ensure a future shaped by their voices. To support youth participation in the SSE, we must simplify registration processes, provide clear guidelines, and lower entry barriers for young entrepreneurs, especially young women. This includes offering target financial and tax-related incentives to encourage youth-led cooperatives and ease access to insurance. We must advocate for accessible, technical, legal, and financial training to equip young people with the skills needed to successfully establish, manage, and grow cooperatives. These youth-led cooperatives should focus on creating jobs, while building partnerships with multi-stakeholders for value chain creation that contributes to the green economy and preserves cultural heritage, ensuring sustainable impact for future generations. So I leave you with this question. How will the UN, member states, and supporting organizations step up as true allies to youth and youth-led cooperatives as we approach the World Summit for Social Development, ensuring our voices and leadership are at the forefront of shaping a more just and inclusive future? The time to act is now. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam. The European Union, followed by the International Society for Human Rights.
Thank you. The social and solidarity economy is a crucial vehicle to accelerate our efforts towards fully achieving the sustainable development goals related to, in particular, employment, decent work, economic development, social protection, social inclusion. It contributes also to economic prosperity, social and environmental equality, and leaving no one behind. Social entrepreneurship can help to alleviate poverty and is a vehicle for business creation. And having made this introduction, I will not take much further time. I just would like to ask a question to the panelists. What, in your opinion, are the main obstacles to fully realize the potential of the social and solidarity economy in promoting sustainable development? Thank you.
Thank you, dear delegate. The International Society for Human Rights, followed by our last intervention by Burkina Faso. Apologies, perhaps I did not express myself properly. First, the International Society for Human Rights, and after this intervention, Burkina Faso will conclude. Thank you, and apologies.
Thank you very much, Excellencies, honorable speakers. Thank you for the opportunity to contribute to this multi-stakeholder forum this afternoon, and thank you for all the insightful presentations that already have been given. My name is Matthias Böning, and I'm the Secretary General of the International Society for Human Rights. At the end of last year, together with our strategic partner, the Qatar Center for Peace and Democracy, we published a study entitled Assessing Qatar's Alignment with the 1995 Copenhagen Commitments on Social Development. This paper analyzes, among other things, the level of fulfillment of Commitment 3, support full employment as a basic policy goal, by the host country of the Second World Summit for Social Development in 2025. It was mentioned in the forum by Mr. Maxime Baduel that the social and solidarity economy discussed in this forum is profoundly political because it has a lot to do with economic citizenship and emphasizes economic citizenship. My question to the three panelists in this forum: in view of the upcoming Second World Summit on Social Development in Doha in Qatar in November 2025, how can we ensure that the promotion of solidarity and social cohesion in all countries also includes closing the citizenship gap, which is of utmost importance for the economic integration of broad sections of the population in many countries around the world? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And now, Burkina Faso.
Merci.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The social and solidarity economy presents a sustainable option for development and can strengthen social cohesion. It is based on the principle of solidarity and participation in decision-making and in the fair sharing of wealth. Thanks to the democratic model, cooperative economies reduce inequalities by enabling a fair redistribution of resources and profits for the community. They provide as well economic opportunities for vulnerable groups such as women and young people, and also people in rural areas. By reinvesting profit for the collective good, cooperative societies favour fairer and more balanced development, thus contributing to a more solidarity-based future. In Burkina Faso, cooperative societies and businesses play a key role by striving to achieve the SDGs. They provide safe loans, they guarantee income and dignified work, all things that contribute to the eradication of poverty. For these reasons, the SSEs are supported by initiatives such as developing artisanal and agricultural businesses that promote women and young people's involvement, also facilitating access to financing, taking into consideration SSE and public policies to strengthen economic and social resilience of communities. Sir, as part of the economic recovery in a time of crisis, we have an agency that was set up. This is a broad program, and it enables Burkina Faso citizens to directly participate in various different projects that affect them, particularly in the area of agriculture, animal husbandry, agro business, and others. So these types of initiatives need to be supported. This is why Burkina Faso advocates for increased support for these kinds of businesses through adapted and appropriate financial mechanisms. The official recognition of the role of the SSE in achieving the SDGs is crucial. With a framework in place that facilitates its expansion is very positive. This will help countries to make the most of experience that has worked elsewhere. In conclusion, Burkina Faso would like to reiterate its commitment to SSEs as a driving force for socio and economic transformation, and would urge the international community to bolster its cooperation in this area. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I now give the floor back to our speakers to address some of very interesting questions. We heard comments about the role of social and solidarity economy in tackling inequalities, yet there was one more related question regarding how to better do that on the occasion of Doha and the World Social Summit. There were interventions targeting especially the issue of youth and how to better endow youth with the necessary tools, knowledge, and other things they need in order to better profit from the social and solidarity economy and the opportunities which are created. Those were among several of the questions, and I propose, in order to address these questions, to start using an inverse order. I propose that France, Mr. Baduel, starts, followed by His Excellency, Permanent Representative of Mongolia, and then by His Excellency from the Ministry of Social Solidarity of Paraguay. And please add to these questions any concluding comments you may have. Thank you.
Merci, Monsieur le Modérateur.
Thank you, moderators. I'd like to thank everybody for your questions and comments. So I'd just like to start by responding to two comments that were made, in particular of Chile and Burundi. So these comments were on what we can do through us here and what each state can do to promote SSE. As the Chilean representative said, creating databases and statistics is something that's sorely lacking for the SSE. There are provisions that are there. For example, in France, if this is at the national level or the European Commission, or more internationally, we are really having to focus on the work of sectoral heads of networks. That's what we need to do. So heads of cooperatives and organizations in France. So I think that's a really good opportunity for us to have public policies that are appropriate, but to understand the clout of the SSE in many different sectors. Now, just regarding what Burundi was saying on the opportunity presented by the SSE for creating networks of excellence, so to involve young people in work in these networks, I think this is an excellent opportunity. We talking about that with my colleague from Paraguay, be this in the area of agriculture or industry. There are networks of excellence, so to speak, centers of excellence through these cooperatives and social entrepreneurship. Now, to respond to questions specifically, talking about young people, I thought that was a very interesting issue. So how can we involve young people more in cooperatives, or how can we involve cooperatives more in the lives of young people? I'd like to talk about a specific case in France. So young people's cooperatives. So during the school holidays, we ask young people if they want to be involved in a social project through a cooperative. These young people are able to find out how to work in the labour market, how to construct a project, and also to understand their value and what role they have to play in these organisations. I do think such initiatives exist in Canada as well, and I think they are particularly interesting. Now, to respond to the question of the representative from the EU, on obstacles that are still in place. If we look at the international level, rather than just the European level, if you don't mind, I know that you are from the European Commission, but if we look at the international scene, I think there are three things that need to be highlighted. Firstly, an obstacle is identifying the situation. So, in other words, giving legitimacy to the SSE in the eyes of different sectors of activity. So identifying it in fiscal provisions, fiscal standards. So the first obstacle is to appropriately identify an SSE there. Secondly, another obstacle is access to financing. Now, today, stakeholders in the social and solidarity economy might seem a bit more fragile than the traditional economy. They are finding it harder to access financing. So we need to think about how to create tools for financing specifically for those stakeholders. And the third obstacle, I think, is the involvement of civil society. So organizing them in creating public policies. So that needs to involve bodies and different organizations that focus on dialogue and discussion. So before I give the floor back to you, moderator, sir, I just want to respond to how can we bolster citizenship through the social and solidarity economy? Well, I think that something comes into play here. We're talking about democratic citizenship. This involvement of civil society involves volunteering. So how much time do we allow employees to be involved in volunteering? There's also the whole aspect of education. So we need to foster emancipation of people, but also to help people access their rights. So in conclusion, I just wanted to share the experience that I've had, not just as a representative of France, but as the former head of an association that was an anti-poverty organization. We had a lot of volunteers working for us. I think that volunteers there, it's really working with volunteers that we are able to build social fabric, and this is something that's very important in terms of influencing public policy so that we can have something that's very sustainable and long-lasting. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you, says the moderator.
Excellency, you have the floor.
Thank you very much for your insightful comments, and especially I was very glad to hear the comments from the youth who are really caring of their future and how we can together here at the United Nations and then regional perspective also during the coming big events for the UN this year, we can achieve more in this regard, involving youth and also the different groups of the people in the society. Let me try to just provide very specifically two questions. One regarding what are the major obstacles. I think from our national perspective, it is really the understanding of the SSC among the national politicians, aligned with the people's willingness to do together. Those are the two important things that has to be aligned first. Obviously, based on that, legal framework has to be improved, changed, adaptation should take place into. But again, the financing is also very challenging issue in this economy. For Mongolia's example, agriculture has been the main economic sector for centuries. And our new cooperative movement is based on that. It's still in the early stage of the policy implementation, and we would like to see how the outcome would come up in the midterm as well as long term in the future. So again, the political will to implement, adapt the concept and then ideology of the SSC economy into the national, social, and economic policy is the important thing. What do we expect from the coming, the second social summit and then as well as the International Fourth Conference for Financing for Development, especially for youth? I think this year's General Assembly, we adopted very important documents, annexes to the Compact of the Future. That is the Declaration of the Future Generations. I think we always have to look into the documents specifically, find out there is always linkage in there, and build on that what we can do internationally, multilaterally, and regionally, and at the national level. That is the approach and the expectation we expect from the coming international conferences. Thank you.
Thank you, Excellency. Excellency, Mr. Paris Ferrero, you have the floor to conclude also this panel.
Gracias. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. It's been truly interesting to listen to the comments and questions of participants here. And I would like to say that for us in Paraguay, working with young people or including young people is absolutely vital. And it's something that we do every day because 25% of Paraguay's population is young. So youth and young people are included and really part of the essence of all issues that we address in our country. And the cooperative movement is no exception to that. Actually, there are some cooperatives that work exclusively with young people on different things, whether it comes with the modalities for meeting, for instance. And for us, it would be a pleasure to exchange experiences with whoever wants to talk about how we include young people. So our public policies also have a lot to do with working with youth. And so what do we want to do, or what do we think we could contribute in order to eliminate different obstacles or make them less serious? We think it's important to empower community associations, especially in their territories when it comes to vulnerable populations or indigenous populations or populations that experience some kind of limitation or that are circumscribed to a certain physical space for whatever reasons. They could be work reasons, for instance. It's also important to provide capacity building for these different groups and these cooperatives that work in the social and solidarity economy space. This is always important. It's important to continue sharing experiences. This is always opportune and interesting. And also, what has already been brought up several times, the issue of financial resources. To have financing at the right time, at the very right moment, and beyond that, as we spoke this morning with the delegate of France, not just loans, but also secured loans, because often our communities that work in the social and solidarity economy space do not have the capital necessary or the collateral necessary to access affordable loans. So we believe that these obstacles or these hiccups that we find along the way, if we strengthen our political will, as the ambassador said, is something that's very important to move this process forward.
I thank all the distinguished panelists, speakers, delegates of member states and the representatives of cooperatives, social and solidarity economy, and the NGOs that took the floor for the well-thought interventions. We heard inspiring case studies and statements on how the social and solidarity economy can successfully transform societies and economies. I would not endeavor to summarize in detail. I would just like to stress 4 takeaways, 4 points which I believe merit our attention as they drive the development and sound operation of the social and solidarity economy in general and cooperatives in particular. I will also stress one personal and more general takeaway. The first point is the importance of specific legal frameworks for fostering the growth of this sector, providing legal recognition and legal certainty, as someone also mentioned, but also support essential for thriving cooperatives and social enterprises. Many of you shared examples of such effective legislation or legislation in the making, as in Paraguay, Mongolia, France, and Chile. The second is the development of comprehensive statistics and data on social and solidarity economy in shaping informed policies. I mean, what you do not measure, you cannot improve. And this is why measuring its size, impact, are key components also for ensuring its constant improvement, but also accountability. And these aspects cannot be overstated. Among these examples, France and Chile were clear about the importance of this aspect. Third, education and capacity building are at the forefront of such efforts towards effective cooperatives and the social and solidarity economy. When social and solidarity economy is being acknowledged in education curricula, capacity building programs, and research activities, you contribute to nurturing and knowledgeable and skilled workforce that in turn can further improve the sector. Including capacity building in terms of how to access affordable credit, for instance, which is, of course, the elephant in the room in many sectors. And the fourth and last point is relates to the engagement of social and solidarity actors in national policy-making processes and participatory governance, which is, as I see from most of the intervention, at the core of this phenomenon. And finally, I wish to stress a more general takeaway. After listening to your interventions and speeches and questions today, it becomes even more evident that as we're heading towards the second World Summit for Social Development in Doha, actions to promote the role of social and solidarity economies and cooperatives will be key in addressing gaps in the implementation of the 95 Copenhagen Declaration, but also aligning our efforts with the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Now, before handing the floor back to the chair, I would like to remind you that the outcome of the discussion today will be reflected in the chair's summary as part of the inputs for the Commission for Social Development to ECOSOC's high-level segment, the 2025 high-level political forum, and the second World Summit for Social Development. I thank you and hand over the floor to the chair, Excellency Sersky. I think we're on time on top of it.
Perfect, perfect. Okay, we have reached the end of the interesting multi-stakeholder forum on the priority theme. So I thank Mr. Papadakis for guiding our discussion. Also thank our panelists and delegations for their participation and contribution. The good sign is that there is more of us in the room at the end than it has been at the beginning. That's always a good sign. So the Commission has thus concluded its program of work for this meeting. Tomorrow afternoon at 3 p.m., the Commission will begin its consideration of the agenda item 4, program questions and other matters, and its sub-items A and B. After the consideration of the agenda item 4, the Commission will take action on draft proposals before concluding its 63rd session. More information on the program of work will be available in the Journal of the United Nations. Following the conclusion of the 63rd session, the Commission will immediately hold its first meeting of the 64th session for the sole purpose of electing the members of the Bureau of the next session. And the early identification of the Bureau members is crucial for the successful preparation of the upcoming session. I would like to take this opportunity to urge regional groups that have not yet done so to consider putting forward the nomination for the Bureau members for the 64th session as soon as possible, so I can give my chairship to my successor. So far, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.